Okay, everyone, I said that I would go through an example that we couldn't get to in class, so this is in 14.p of the 2023 October 9th practice questions. So here I have an example that's not too dissimilar from what we showed in class with the dog, and it's more complicated than what you need to do for your homework. But hopefully, following along with this, you'll be able to get a better idea of how classes work and how you can actually implement them. So the practice problem here says that we want to make this book class with these requirements. So create a class named book, and it should have these following instance variables. So a book has a title, the author, pages, which is the total number of pages in a book, and then the current page, which is the page the reader is currently on, and defaults to 1. Then it should have these three methods. So it needs a constructor, or the init, and that should get a title, author, and pages. Then there's one to turn the page, so that increases the page number by 1. But if they're on the last page and try to turn it, you should just print out you reach the end of the book and not increase the current page. Then there's also the current status. So that just prints out a message. So like reading X book by X author, currently on page X of X total pages. So we're going to implement this. We're going to create an instance of the book using Python Basics as the title with John Doe and 150 pages. And then just to show how we can call the methods in this class, we're going to turn the page of the book 5 times and print out the current status each time that we turn the page. So at first, let's just create the class and do the constructor. So to do that, we're going to do class book, we do colon, then anything that's indented from here is part of the definition of it. If we want to do the constructor, we do init, which is 2 underscores, then init, then another one here. And like we talked about in class, you always want to start with self. That's just whatever object is being created. It's just a reference to that object. Then we're going to pass in title. Let's do author, pages, and then I think it says here just to pass in title, author, and number of pages, but I'm going to do one for current page. But I want the default to be 1, so I'm just going to do that. So if I wanted to pass in a different current page, I could, but just by default, it's going to equal 1. So now we want the object that we create to actually store the variables that we're passing in. So we're going to do self.title equal to title, self.author is equal to author, self.pages is equal to pages, and self.current page is equal to current page. And we need to do a couple more methods, but just to show you what's going on so far, we've created a definition for this book, and it's going to run the code. It's going to store what this definition is, but we need to actually run it. So let's do book example, which will store our object, and then let's call the constructor for the book. So we do book, and it said to do Python Basics, John Doe, 150 pages. So let's do Python Basics, John Doe, and it's going to be 150 pages. And let's do something with it. Let's print out the title. How about that? See book example dot title. We'll do title. So just to show what's going on so far, I'm just going to run through this in the debugger. So let's do this here. So we're starting here, and we are going into the definition. It's created this for us, but it hasn't done anything with it yet. And then we get to this line of code here where we're trying to call the book constructor and store the object that it creates in the book example variable. So I'm going to step into that so you can see what's going on here. And so this function is started, and we have the title of Python Basics, author, pages, and the current page is equal to 1. So the object, which currently is stored in self, we're assigning this object to have the title, author, and pages, and current page. So it's going one by one and storing those variables in there. So now self has a title of Python Basics because it got it from how we passed it in until we get to the end. And now it's created this book example variable here, and it stored everything that we told it to. So book example has an author, it also has a current page, a total number of pages, and a title. So if we want to do something with that, we can just say book example dot and then access any of those instance variables that we want to. In this case, we can just print out title. I'll run that, and there we go. We have Python Basics. But that's not everything that it told us to do. It wanted us to make two other methods, which again are just functions that are part of the class. So let's make this first one. Let's see, it says to do turn page self. So let's do that. Turn page, make it self. And what this is doing is it wants us to take whatever the value for current page is and increase it by 1. So basically we have self.current page, which again by default is equal to 1, but we want to increase that by 1 each time. So we could do a plus equals, but I'll just do self.current page plus 1. So we want to change the value of current page to be whatever the current page actually is, but increased by 1, and then store that into current page again. But this also says if the reader is on the last page and tries to turn the page, it should print a message, you've reached the end of the book, and not increase the current page. So let's do that logic. So we only want this to occur if it's not the last page. So one way to do that is just with an if statement and check if the current page is equal to the last page. So if the current page does not equal the total number of pages, which is just pages, let's do a colon, then we wanted to do this. We wanted to actually turn the page, change what that is. Otherwise, let's just print out the message. And what does it say to? I'm just going to copy and paste this so I don't have to retype it. So it's going to print out, you've reached the end of the book. And that's only going to happen if the current page is equal to the actual total number of pages. So that's that other one asked for, and then it also asks for current status. Prints the current status in the form reading title by author, currently on page, current page of all of these. So this is just going to print something basic. I'll show an example of this printing in the function, and then also show an example of it returning, because in the homework you need to return a message rather than just print it in the method. So I'll show you how to do both ways. This is called current status self. Okay, so if we're just going to print it, we can do this, reading, and you can do the dot format or you can concatenate. I'll just show a concatenation right here. I think we've done that before in the class, so that might be easier. We can do self dot title plus by the author plus, okay, we want a period, then a space, and then currently on page. And then since we're concatenating, we need to cast it into a string. So let's do self dot current page plus space of space, and then the total number of pages. So we'll cast that into a string again and do self dot pages. And that's because pages and current page are integers. So if we want to use them, we'd need to cast them to strings if we want to concatenate like this. You could also do the other way of doing strings, where you do something like dot format, and you could pass them in doing that. I've given examples of that before. Or we could do an f string at the beginning and pass them in that way, but I'll just keep it like this for this example. This works, so, or it should, as long as I didn't do any bugs. So we have both of these functions, but they're not being called yet. And it says to turn the page 5 times, and after each turn, print the current status. So how are we going to do this 5 times? We could just copy and paste code 5 times, but that's not very efficient. I'm just going to do a loop. So let's do range of 5. So it starts at 0 and goes all the way through 5, so that should work. Oh, I forgot in for x in range 5. Let's see, we want to turn the page, so we have book example, which we created here, remember, right here. If we want to access one of its methods, we just do a dot, and then we can do turn page. Remember to make it have the open and close parentheses. So that's going to turn the page, and then right after we turn the page, we want to print out the current status of it. So we can do a dot, current status, do that as well. So let's actually, we're debugging it here. Let's debug this again and then see what's going on. So let's run this. Just gonna step over this. It's creating all of these functions. It's created this variable for us, book example, that has all of these variables in it. We're printing one out. It didn't say to do that, but we have that from before, so it's going to print that out. Now we're going to do a loop. So we're going to do these functions 5 times, or these methods, I should say. So let's step into the loop. So it turned the page, and now it's going to print out the current status. By default, the current page is 1, so when it adds another to it, it should print out 2. So there we go. Python Basics by John Doe, currently on page 2 of 150. It's turning the page and continually printing the current status, and it's going to do that 5 times, and then it will end. So there you go. You have an example of a class being defined. You have the constructor, where you put the variables that you want to store for it. And in this case, we have 2 methods. For your homework, you just need 1. And in this method, we're just printing it out directly here. But let me show you how you could do that otherwise. You could just return this. Return. So it's going to return this big ol' string that it's concatenating together when you call this. So if you were to actually call this function right here, it wouldn't actually do anything, because it's creating the string, it's returning it, but we're not doing anything with it. So if you want to do it like that, then you just need to put the print statement here instead of in the method when you initially define it. So we can run this again, and I'm just going to let it play all the way through instead of stepping through. And there we go. So did the exact same thing, but print is here rather than inside of here. So feel free to reach out over Slack if you have any questions, and hopefully this helps you. This is a little bit more complicated, I think, than what the homework is asking, but it should give you a good start for creating classes and starting with object-oriented programming. So thanks.